On this episode, we had Ivan and Mariana Polic of Shift Intelligence. Ivan and Mariana have spent the last 12 years advising small and medium-sized businesses on how they can scale, become more efficient, and grow, allowing them to have a very successful exit. Ivan and Mariana were also owners of a business in the aerospace industry. They also had to navigate lots of issues with that, allowing them to triple the revenue and allowing them for an 8-figure exit. Through their method, Shift Intelligence, Ivan and Mariana advise leaders and organizations into alignment, impact, and freedom beyond traditional success. They're also the co-authors of Bridging Legacy and Innovation. It was a great conversation. I'm so glad they were on the show. I know you're going to enjoy it. Please like and subscribe. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill Dement, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall Drywall Repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
Good morning, James. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing good. It's a good day.
I think this may be the first West Coast guest we've had.
I think you're right. This is the first time we've had somebody from the West Coast on the show.
We've had people from the North.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people from the Carolinas. We've had people from Georgia, Tennessee, all over Florida. Never anybody from California.
No, from California. It's actually fun because I actually met our guest, Ivan, and his wife, Mariana, on LinkedIn, and we discussed multiple things. And I really found them fascinating, their story. So I'm actually very excited to introduce Ivan and Mariana Polic. They're the co-founders of Shift Intelligence, and I know they've got a great story, lots of franchising experience and stories. And so welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thank you. Great to be here with you.
Hi from California.
California.
Yeah, thanks.
Orange County, California. Well, very cool. Well, listen, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and let them know kind of who you are, and then we can kind of dig in some nuts and bolts about your background.
Yeah, so we're a husband and wife team. Got married 25 years ago. Just celebrated that anniversary. We ran our business together, the legacy business in the aerospace industry for some 20 years. We co-wrote a book, co-founded another business, and pretty much doing everything together, pretty much doing our advisory work together. So that's a little bit about us in a nutshell.
Wow. So working with your spouse, I love my wife. She's an amazing person. I'm nothing without her. But working side by side is got to be a challenge for some people. You guys have been able to navigate that pretty well through multiple businesses, huh?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, we like each other too, and we love each other too. And so we found a way. We spoke to a lot of couples, over the years, and most of the people do not want to mix, business and, intimate relationship. We found a way somehow, whether that was a gift from God or the universe, or, but we work on it every day.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not easy sometimes, but obviously you guys have a great relationship, and doing this for so long, it's just been able to be easier as the years go by, I'm hoping. So can you tell me a little bit about Shift Intelligence? What's this endeavor you got going on here?
Yeah, so in today's very fast-paced world, with so much change that is going on, all the technological advances, the economic turmoil, the political issues that we're dealing with, the wars overseas, and all the things that are going on, there's a huge acceleration of change. And the way the business used to run, it's no longer the case. You used to be able to have a business, create a business, and pretty much run it for decades on that same foundation. And nowadays, the change that's coming, it's much quicker. Within 2-3 years, you got to be pivoting, you got to be introducing new things, and you got to be new methods, new approaches, the shifts in the marketplace. All of those things require a more adaptable approach than ever before. It requires a more flexible point of view and a more changing perspective all the time, and maybe even more of a finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. And because of that, and through our journey that we had to adapt many times through many crises to continue to grow our business and continue to be ready for all those changes, we figured out a way that you need to have a shiftable mindset and a shiftable approach and a flexible approach, and that's what we call shift intelligence. You need to raise your ability to shift. You need to raise your capacity to shift, because the world is shifting much faster than before, and if you don't, it can have very adverse consequences, including going out of business. And so that's why we created the shift intelligence approach and system, and that's how we help. That's what enabled us to scale our business and exit for 8 figures, and to help numerous other business owners and entrepreneurs to also continue to grow, scale, and exit their businesses.
So how does somebody, a business owner, maybe adopt a new approach or mindset? Is there a set of steps there, or is there a prescribed program to do that?
Well, typically what we find when business owners are not adaptable or flexible is that they get stuck in some kind of perspective. And so they're thinking, oh, okay, we're okay, we're fine, we're going in this direction, this is our direction. It's worked for the last 10 years, it's worked for the last 20, 30 years maybe. Why would we need to change, And so it's a very dangerous position to be in today's world. And the first step of our approach is something we call acknowledge reality. Acknowledge the reality that's happening right now in this moment. The world, as I said, is changing much faster. So what used to work and how we used to look at it may not work anymore. So the first step is always acknowledge reality. Sometimes that reality may not be the most comfortable thing that we ever wanna even consider. So acknowledging it is the first step, because without acknowledging it, we cannot engage the new reality. We cannot influence our path, influence our way, and we usually are a few steps behind the map.
So is that something you would do then? You come up alongside an owner and help them to realize that they need a shift in their thinking?
Yeah, we will always. That's always the first step.
Right. And it could be different things for different people, obviously, in different companies, in different industries. So, for example, in the last few years, you saw the increase in people wanting to not come into the office, like working remotely.
Mhm.
And for some people who have done it for 20 plus years with everybody in the office and, rallying around, it was very difficult to accept that that is the new reality. So when you come in, the business owner says, I have the biggest problem, and that is that people won't come back into the office. Okay, well, that's when we help them acknowledge reality, that is the new wave, and that's where they need to adopt.
Interesting. It's nice because as an owner, we think we know what's best, but the reality is that we sometimes need a coach to kind of help us learn the hard way, or who's been the hard way, that maybe our way is not the best way. So that's interesting that you guys have built a business about that.
Yeah, they kind of hit on it, because what you've been doing for the past 10 or 20, maybe even 30 years has been working just fine. But if the floor is shifting underneath you, you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to adapt. That's for sure.
Yeah, we have a slogan, because we've had to shift multiple times here at Hole in the Wall, and we've got this: what led us here will not take us to where we want to go, right? So sometimes you have to pass the baton. Sometimes you have to shift and pivot, as we call it. COVID created this pivot mentality that a lot of us didn't know we needed. Certain restaurants went from, doing a great business, all of a sudden they either went out of business or they had to pivot. They had to start doing to-go orders or, catering to other options. And being able to recognize that early enough in advance, so you don't take yourself and wait to the last minute, because it's hard to change when you miss the boat, right? When you wait too long, and all of a sudden you're now playing catch up as opposed to being ahead of the game, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely crucial, and many times the point of the business is to grow, to continue to expand your influence, your contribution in the world, and all of these things. And many times business gets stuck and stagnate and don't grow because those additional shifts that are needed to enable scale aren't being made. So this should be working. This should be working. We're just going to work harder and harder on the same thing, but somehow it isn't producing the results. So those shifts are also very, very important to make in order to enable the continued growth.
Do you have any examples of some shifts that you've seen people make or have needed to make that you've been able to kind of guide them through? Some examples of that?
Right. Well, as I mentioned, there was one of the clients, they had it really hard on the office thing, and they just would not want to budge. And it took a good, up to a year almost, where, she was realizing that this is a new reality, and, there's some people that need to be revising their contracts, and, how do we do this? And it was important for her to know that she was not alone in this new wave, that it was a sweeping wave through multiple industries, especially in hers. And so that was one of the biggest shifts that we had to make on that end. And then there was also an example of the owner dependence. It's, we do it this way, and we do it under my command, and we do it under my control, and I control all the aspects of the business. And as such, why are we not able to grow? Well, we're not able to grow because there are all these growth opportunities, but one man cannot fulfill all of them. You need a team that can actually help you with different tasks and enable that system, because the system that got them, like you said, up to here on the growth will not get them, to a next level of growth, which is, and a difference is sometimes in the millions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, and it's a great point, because a lot of business owners, they have pride in their business. They want to make sure that they pass this legacy on. But the reality is they've built the business around the person and not around a process, which makes it more difficult when it's time to exit the business, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much impossible. The sad statistics are that 80% of businesses never exit. So only 20% ever actually create an exit. And the reason for that is what you just said. Nobody wants to buy a job. Nobody wants to buy a thing that's going to be unstable when the owner leaves. Owner is critical to all the operations, critical to all the relationships, critical to all the decision making. Team is not used to making decisions. Team is not used to leading. Team is not used to stepping into crisis moments. So when a new buyer looks at that, it says, wow, well, what do I got to do? I got to come in here and work 80 hours a week to make this business work. There are people that want that, but they are far and few between. And if you really want to create an exit for yourself, you really want to tackle the owner dependence piece, because if your business can run without you operationally all day long, it becomes a lot more attractive to a lot larger and a wider set of investors. Mm-hmm. And so then you increase your chances of actually creating an exit. What else happens is that your value of your business increases tremendously. Mm-hmm. It probably doubles in value just from you not having to do everything, just from you not calling every shot, not making every decision. And so multiple great benefits happen with the shift of creating a team that can run things and operate without you. Your quality of life improves, the value of your business doubles or triples, and
the quality of the team, the life of the team members improves also, because they feel they have a purpose in this company that they were hired to do their best work for, instead of being, micromanaged and controlled by the owner or the manager.
So it's a kind of a triple win, and it creates an asset that you can rely on, and that you can actually go on vacation and it will still produce very well. So it's a multiple benefit, for the business owner and for everyone else involved.
And it also shields you from tragedy, right? Because if it's built around the owner, but then something happens to the owner, right? Whether it's a tragedy, whether it's a family emergency, or maybe they pass away or they get, terminally ill. We're not guaranteed tomorrow in this world. So to shield your business by pulling yourself and, making yourself in a less critical role, still obviously it's your business, but being able to pull back a little bit and allowing your team the air the room to thrive and grow underneath your direction. Obviously, that's beneficial to you in your own personal life, as well as I like what you said. It makes you a more desirable business. It could cost, it can make you extra millions of dollars, right? Um,
Absolutely.
that's really fantastic. And maybe you guys have some other examples. I know we talked a little bit about some case studies and stuff you guys have done. Is there any things that some steps that people can take now, business owners can take now? Because obviously you don't want to wait until the last minute to build your business and development to the point where you want to exit. You want to build that kind of earlier in the game, right?
Absolutely. Earlier, the better. Even if you're not considering to exit, creating an exitable company, as you said, de-risk your business, your family's future. If you put some things in place, maybe you can transition over a few weeks, over a few months. But if nothing is in place, it might take years, and you may not have those years.
Mhm.
Things change in life, and that's part of the reason why a lot of businesses never exit. Businesses either shut down or go bankrupt, go out of business, or they just have to move on. They cannot make it work because those big shoes that need to be filled, there haven't been conditions in place for that. And so the steps that I would recommend is, first I would recommend a pause. If you're running around doing a lot of things, you don't have a lot of time to think. So I would recommend a pause and a little bit of taking a step back and looking at your business objectively. You can maybe take someone experienced that has done this before and think through things with them, or you can just think it for yourself. Like, okay, what are the main risks of this business? What could go wrong in this business? What if I can't come next week? What will we do? What if John, the main sales guy, just something happens to him? What would we do? Like, what are all the single points of failure in our business, and how can we put in some things and some protections on those things? What is my role? What would be a different way to do this? Many times business owners think that, but there isn't money, there isn't time, there isn't resources. How do we do this? No matter what your situation is, there are always steps you can take. And if you are, your level of risk in your business is a 7 out of 10, there are things you could do here that don't cost any money that could reduce that risk maybe to a 5, to a 4. There are always steps you can take to reduce risk in your business. And those are fundamental. Those are good for the business regardless of what you're going to do in the future. And
So
so those are some things to look at.
so you guys have successfully exited multiple businesses, right, in the past?
We have exited our legacy aerospace business, and we helped other people exit their businesses.
Perhaps you could share that experience with us, and what are some of the steps some things you've learned through that process that we can pass on you through those transitions? Because I'm curious about your other businesses, and I mean, aerospace is new to me. It's not something I know a ton about, so maybe you can kind of go down that road a little bit.
Great. Well, where our initial change really was born is I drove up to the building one day and I couldn't get out of the car. I was so burnt out. I was so spent, and I was making every decision. We were doing a 24/7 operation, making mission critical parts for the aerospace industry, for commercial airliners, for the military applications. We were cutting metal to a hair tolerance, less than a hair tolerance. And so a lot of things were going wrong across a lot of dimensions across overnight. So I would wake up in the morning with a lot of problems and a lot of issues. And when you put in several years of that, it gets very, very, very difficult. And so in that moment in the car, I was like, this business might actually be the end of me. Like, if I keep pushing against this unmovable object, I'm either going to have a heart attack or I'm going to have a stroke and in that moment, it was like a wake up call. Like, oh my God, this business is not going to be the end of me. This is not, I'm doing this for my family, and I actually might just ruin myself in the process. So I have to pull back. And from that moment on, we made a huge shift. And that's where shift comes. in the play. We made a huge shift to see how we can build a team and business and a system and everything that could run completely without me. I was running, maybe working 80 hours a week, pushing really hard on all these things in a very demanding, difficult business. And at the end of the process of rebuilding everything, creating a new culture and creating a business that can operate without me, I was working 2 hours a week, and I was strategically showing up in the business at, maybe once a week. And that was a huge shift. And it needed a lot of things to be put in place that weren't there. And it took probably 3 years to create all of that. And eventually we exited to private equity for a 98% cash deal, which is unheard of.
Wow.
Our transition took 6 days only. So they said, "Oh, we need you for 6 months." We said, "Oh, no way, no. We are not doing that. We built a thing that doesn't need us. You don't need us. Just go, you'll see." They said, no, we're not going to see. We're going to have you for 6 months. We said, no. They said, no deal. He said, maybe we can do a little, So we said, okay, how about we give you 2 days a week for 6 months, and would that work? And they said, okay, let's do that. So we did our exit. The deal went through, everything worked out great. In the third week of the transition process, we got brought into the boardroom, and they said, you told us we don't need you, but we didn't believe it. But 3 weeks in, we can see it, and thank you very much, and see you later. We'll call you if something comes up.
Wow,
And
terrific.
What was that?
2022.
2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. We talked to the owner once since then.
Wow.
And so that's the story of our kind of shift and what that enabled for us.
But it all started with you reaching a breaking point and then having to do a mental shift where you're like, you know what, this can't happen. It happens a lot, right? New Year's resolutions, I want to lose weight. Maybe a problem in the marriage. I want to, something clicks in us. So I guess the key takeaway would be, let's figure that out before we have this breakdown, right? I mean, you had this small little mental break and you're like, this is not going to kill me. I refuse to let it kill me. So now you're trying to help people get there before they get to that breaking point, right?
Absolutely. It's there are opportunities in our business for one reason or another we're not tapping into. We are either not looking at it correctly, or we're ignoring it because it's uncomfortable, or we're avoiding it because we're already busy, or we're just not prioritizing the correct things. And that could be because of the way we were brought up, how we think about things. For me, it was that no one's going to care about your business as much as you. No one can do it as well as you. No one's going to care, and all of those things that we tell ourselves and we're told by other people and we brought up into. So a lot of those things can be hurdles, and looking at it a little bit from a wider perspective, from a more informed perspective, from a more variety and more flexibility and different points of view.
Well, there are also signs that, to watch out for and to look out for, like you said, before you get to the breaking point. Are there any signs that you as a business owner are not doing great, that you might be, pushing aside? Meaning, how are you feeling physically? How many hours did you put in this week? Is your wife distant with you? Are your kids not wanting to hang out with you? How many of the events did you miss? Can you not bring your phone or your laptop to a vacation? When you come back from the vacation, is it a mess? On that Monday, you walk in and everything is falling apart. There are different signs that we sometimes think are just, part of the course as owning a business, but they're actually signs that accumulate over years and over time. And right, like you said, before you get to the breaking point, can you address them? And, one of the questions also that we ask people when we talk to them is, what is your horizon? because you're in your business so much that you can't really step out and get thinking time and for the bigger picture. So when you ask them like, what is your horizon, and they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, how do you see yourself 3, 5, 10 years from now in your business, in relation to your business or with yourself? And I can tell you that many of them, they have no idea what the horizon is except for grind, 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 make it bigger, make it better, and or sustain how it is. And a lot of times people also, because they don't know the horizon, they don't want to sell the business or exit or anything because they don't know what they will do if later with their lives if they do exit.
Did you know that there are over 140 million homes in the U.S.? 97% of them have walls and ceilings that are built using drywall. The drywall repair industry is simply enormous, valued at over $13 billion a year. We're hole-in-the-wall drywall repair, and for years we have been perfecting the art of repairing drywall, developing and refining our systems, and strengthening our brand. Our business model is simple, scalable, and easy to learn. We believe it's a real game changer. We are successful drywall repair pros who decided to take our repair business to a higher level, growing both our franchise training and support to industry-leading standards. You'll benefit from our vast experience helping your franchise hit the ground running and achieve success quickly. We'll give you access to our marketing team that has created strategic programs designed to get your phone ringing and booking new business fast. Join a fast-growing leader in an exciting dynamic segment of the home service industry by franchising with Hole-in-the-Wall Drywall Repair. Start building your own business and securing your own financial future today.
It is amazing how often people don't think about that. We had I don't know if it was a guest or just somebody in our office one day talking about that. How long do you want to keep doing this? And he says, well, we're maybe 65. I'm in great shape. I think I'll just keep working. Well, okay, it's 70. Do you want to get out then? Oh, no. I think 70s, I'll still be good. I'm still going to work. At 75, do you want to still be, well, my family's got good genes. At 80 years old, at some point, I'm going to get to 90 eventually, but at some point, you're going to hit that exactly what you're calling the horizon. At some point, something has to change. The business has to be handled by someone else or sold off to be handled by somebody else. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs sort of miss that because they're just, down in the engine and up to their elbows, concentrating on the works of the business and not looking down the road so much.
And if they've been in their business so long, they may not realize that they would like life not so busy, right?
Mhm.
There is a world outside of business, and they do have, hopefully they have family of some flavor that they can spend time with, and being more available to live a life that's not in the confines of work does help the work-life balance, right?
Many times identities of business owners, especially founders, get tied up into their business. So the whole thing, I am my business and my business is me,
Yeah.
that becomes a big hurdle. You cannot sell a part of you. You
Mhm.
don't want to.
That's a
You
really good point.
Yeah.
You cannot leave a part of you. You
Yeah.
don't want to. It's too precious. So the step that we always do first is kind of de-identifying and creating a healthy separation between the human and the business, which benefits both parties very much because the human gets to breathe a little bit
Mhm.
outside of the business, and then the business gets a chance to develop and grow without that particular human, obviously under some guidance and support and all that is needed. But the ceiling of growth that happens, when a founder is controlling everything, when one brain is making all the decisions, there's a finite capacity of one brain, one human. And so when they are tied together, business only grows as much as that human allows it. But when the healthy separation is created, then both parties have a chance to thrive in their own right for who they really are, and they have the more capacity for growth. It's a bond without bondage. We
Mm.
like to say you can bond with your business, but don't make it a bondage relationship where you're stuck and end up in the prison of your own making.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about how this would be and how you can use your techniques and your systems in a franchise or franchising somehow.
Yeah, well, franchise is typically are started with kind of family partners, maybe a husband and wife team can start a franchise. Many times that happens. Sometimes friends say, okay, let's pick up a franchise and let's work and let's run with this thing. There are a lot of unintended consequences when you are, starting your business or starting a franchise from a point of view of proximity. Oh, I know John. John is XYZ. He knows this, and I know that. And, we like each other. So why don't we start a franchise together? And that type of approach, thinking a little bit deeper about that is very important.
Well, making a shift from that kind of mindset, it's like up until that point, you were, either a partner, in a relationship or with a friend or, somebody else. And, you see them in different light. Well, from now, when we sign for our franchise, we need to shift that mindset into something else. Now we are business partners. We have a higher responsibility. We have a responsibility that precedes and supersedes everything that we've done so far. And then also, historically, how did we relate to each other? And how is the new relating supposed to take place so that any snags maybe that we had from the past are not going to affect a future partnership in this new endeavor?
We have an example of two partners. They're running a franchise. And by the time we got involved, one of the partners came to us and said, this is not working. For years now, I'm pulling out my hair because it's just not working. And
all the weight is on my shoulders. I feel like I'm 90% responsible and working.
I'm carrying the load more than the other person. The business isn't functioning well, and I am really not functioning well. And they said, can you help us somehow? And within 1 hour, we talked to this business owner, and he went and met in the afternoon with his partner, and they dissolved their years-long partnership in one conversation, amicably.
Wow.
These are the best friends that knew each other for many, many years, and their families are friends. And the previous generations, their parents were friends with each other's parents. So very long historical. That's why they couldn't say things that needed to be said. And then one question we asked is, so not, considering that you feeling like this, do you think your partner might also be not feeling that great about this? He was like, I don't see how he could feel good. I don't know how that would be even possible. I'm like, well, yeah, So, we guided him through a set of questions that actually created openings in his mind that this actual change that he was considering that is needed might actually be beneficial to the partner, might actually be good for the partner, and might actually be good for their relationship, better than what they're doing now. And little by little, in that conversation, he decided it was time to have it. And we guided him how to do it in a respectful manner and how to open it with questions that they were including the partner. And together they designed it in a way that worked for everyone. And that was it. It doesn't typically go like that fast. It was ripe. The fruit was ripe. It was on the branch, and we could just say, reach over here, grab it. Yeah. This is what you do. And it worked. We had other cases where it took 18 months. So every case is different, but we're just giving you that as an example. There's always a way if you are open.
So I'm curious, with Shift Intelligence, is this a case like the case you just said? Is this where you knew these people and you were able to go in and offer some advice to them? Or is this a case typically in your business where people would approach you, maybe they have identified that there are some problems or something needs a course correction, and then they would reach out to you to come in and advise on that?
Yes, definitely.
Well, it depends. It depends because sometimes people come to us to help them resolve one problem, one issue, which we do, and then something else that is actually completely different or even bigger, shows up and arises. So then we work on that. So for this particular, case, he came in wanting to grow the business. And, he said, okay, I need this, and I know I need systems in place, and I need some, my own expansion of my mind. How am I going to reach the next level?
Mhm.
And then we, started talking about that. And then it showed up that the reason why he wasn't able to grow his business is because he was carrying most of the load. He couldn't rely on his partner, who still had a job, by the way. So it just came up that, okay, before we solve the growth, we have to solve the conditions for that growth to happen. So sometimes people exactly know, and they identify the problem and they come with it, and that's exactly what it is. And sometimes, most of the time, it's actually what you think you need is or want is not actually that.
You're like a business therapist, like a
Yeah.
business head doctor shrink. That's
We
funny.
did a lot of work with ourselves, and it paid off.
Well, yeah, I needed major turnaround, both mentally and physically, and we had to, all the things that we use with our clients and our partners, they all came from lived experience of turning around our situation. So this isn't something that is theoretical in any way. That's
Yeah.
why we can sit in these difficult conversations, because we've been in those difficult conversations with the highest stakes ever. Like, this either changes or we all go down with this ship. So
Well, it's
this
good.
is
It's good you're out there. It's good because people just sometimes they don't know what they need until they hear someone like you guys talking. So I really appreciate you sharing your stories, because it's fabulous to see that on the outside of this, you can have a very successful business, but still exit it and still have a quality of life that is something you want to enjoy and rejoice with. So, is there anything else we can talk about before we let you guys go?
I don't know.
One particular story when it comes to partners and complexities of that. Maybe Mariana
yeah.
can share what it means when you close, maybe with your close friend or maybe your spouse, you're running a business. How that can get sensitive.
Well, yeah, it was one of those days. That was one of the biggest shifts that we had. I mean, we did have little shifts, along the way of how we work with each other, and how we, let everything mix together. Talk about business at home and talk about personal things at work. But it at one point we needed a bigger shift to just understand how do we relate with each other initially when we start a conversation of some sort. And it was a very busy day, and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And I was kind of out there with on the floor and trying to resolve some things. And then also I got a call from school because one of the boys was misbehaving, and I was just like, oh. And I walk into his office, and he was buried in papers, and that's one of the first mandates. Like, when a man is focused on something, you do not interrupt them, because there's no way that they're going to have capacity to hear you. And I just walked in there, and I kind of started unloading on him, and Ivan, in his wisdom and calmness, remaining calm, he just lifted his head and looked at me, and he said, can you pause for a second? And I did. And he said, I need to know, are you speaking to me as my chief cultural officer, or are you speaking to me as my wife? And that just stopped me in my tracks. And I took a breath, several breaths. And, I thought to myself, okay, how am I talking to him right now? And what am I doing? Is this contributory to what is going on right now, or this is something that can wait? And, that was one of the biggest moments of distinction of how do you come to the other party with your feelings and with your luggage and with everything situation that is going on with you, and how do you make sure that it's not affecting them in a way that is less than serving.
It reminds me. My wife and I do this. She'll say something at me, and I go, "Which James do you want? Do you want the compassionate James? Do you want the problem solver James? I mean, who would you like me to be right this second? Do you want me to be mean with you? Or, like, yeah, that person didn't do a very good job, or do you need me to give you a hug?" And because sometimes, especially as a guy, we want to respond, like we want to fix it. If our spouse has a problem, or our business partner has a problem, I want to get there and fix it. But sometimes they don't want you to fix it. They just need something different.
Just want you to know.
Yeah, clarifying statements are good. That's a great story, Mariana. Really good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, as we wrap up, I know you mentioned something about a possible giveaway and such. Anything you want to talk about that before? And then we'll obviously put all the links and stuff below as well. But what else you got there?
For everyone that is curious about what we just talked about, you can go to shiftintelligence.co/tools. And you will get a lot of tools. There's a masterclass we did on these subjects where you can really look under the hood of your business and see what might be needed for you. There's also a founder freedom insights report, how to create freedom for yourself as a founder. There are several other tools there that we're sharing. So that's a good way for people to get familiar with things and pull out some tools that might be helpful for them. So shiftintelligence.co/tools.
Excellent. Well, that is great. Thank you for having those tools available for our audience. This is fascinating. It's amazing the dynamic duo you two bring to the table, and can't wait to hear more stories as Shift Intelligence gets through. You're going to have so many case studies we can talk about moving forward that I can't wait to kind of hear some of those stories as we go. So anything else you got, Bill?
Nope, that's it. I'll say it again. I just love hanging out with smart people.
Absolutely.
I just love it.
It's great. Listen, thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. It's early on the West Coast compared to where we are here in Florida, so I know it's a sacrifice, but I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to engage down the road later on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Loved
Awesome.
it.
All right. Well, that's been a really good show. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.